No. 50-50. Yes. Also no. No. Like yes and no. Oof, this one is like tea. 안녕하세요. 안녕하세요. It's Natalia and welcome to an assumptions about life in Korea video. Another sit down video. Another video with my purple ring light. Ta-da! So, a while back, and when I say a while back, I mean like a month ago, but by the time you see this, potentially like 2 months ago, because I told you guys it was gonna come out sometime in July. Yes. Anyway, so a while ago, I asked you guys on Instagram to submit some assumptions about life in Korea so that we could have a fun like sit down video. You guys submitted so many assumptions, like over 100 assumptions. And obviously I can't answer 100 assumptions in this video. So I picked out some and we're gonna go over those. And if I didn't choose your assumption, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, anyway, let's not waste time and jump into these assumptions. Koreans are scared of foreigners. No, this is not true. No. If you're ever in a situation where you feel like the Korean person, like whether it's at a store or an institution or at the park or something, is scared of you, most likely they see you and it seems like you want to talk to them and then they get all stressed out that they're gonna have to speak English. At least that's my experience. I've never really noticed anyone being like scared of me or afraid of me necessarily. It's more like, oh my gosh, I'm not like confident in my English abilities, like this Wegogan is gonna want to speak in English and like I don't speak English. It's usually that, like even when they're really good at Korean, oh my goodness, even when they're really good at English, sometimes they're like not confident in their skills, and so then they see a Wegogan, they think, oh my gosh, English. And the reason I say this is because like in those situations, as soon as I start speaking Korean, they go, oh, and then they look fine. And then they like talk and they'll be like, oh, you're good at Korean. So that's my guess. Obviously, like I don't know everyone's situation, but yeah, I'm gonna go with no. That assumption is incorrect. Most people don't think you know Korean. True. That piggybacks on the last one. Like most of the time people don't think I speak Korean, and I understand why. Like most foreigners here don't speak Korean. Like we did this to ourselves in that regard. However, there have been a few like situations that I've been in where they assume that I do speak Korean, or like the first thing they'll say is like 한국어 할 줄 알아요? 한국어 할 수 있죠? Like meaning you speak Korean, right? Because it's usually like a health, like the 보건소 or like the health center or like a doctor's office or like some kind of government institution, to the point where they're like, if you made it this far, like if you made your reservation and got to like actually in front of a person, they're like, you clearly have to have some level of Korean in order to have like gotten this far. I'm always alone too, so there's no translator there, so I think they're just like, clearly this Wegogan speaks Korean. But yes, usually they assume that I don't speak Korean. Ooh, this one is like tea. Most foreigners are instafamous or want to be. No. Okay, the majority of like other foreigners that I've met here don't care about Instagram. Like it's literally like a private Instagram. They only have like 200 people following them kind of thing. But I understand why you say this, because there are definitely people that come to Korea and then they start like their own YouTube channel, or they start like their own Instagram about like Korea and stuff. And like, if you want to record like your moments living here, whether it's like an exchange student or international student or just like moving here, like more power to you. But yeah, I don't know, like the Korean government has a lot of opportunities for people who have followings on Instagram and YouTube and TikTok. What do I mean by that? I mean like the Korean government or like tourist organizations here will literally send influencers to places. They'll be like, you can go here for free, but you have to make a video about it. Or, oh, like as long as you review it on your Instagram, like you can go for free. That kind of thing. Like there's a lot of programs like that. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily people like want to be famous or something. I think a lot of it's also like, hey, if I have an Instagram, I can do all these cool things because I'll have a following. Or like I don't have to pay to go on these trips because I have a following. For example, I'm in one, and this weekend, like the weekend that I'm filming this, I'm gonna go to a K-pop concert for free because I'm an influencer. I say influencer because usually like when you think of an influencer, you think of someone with like a lot of followers. Yeah, I'm gonna go to this K-pop concert as a press. Ooh, I'm so excited. It's hard to find Western food in Korea. No, it's really easy. Okay, well, it depends on which country you are from, but me being from the United States and being like Mexican American, like it's really easy to find Mexican food here. However, it does cost money. Like it costs quite a bit of money. Like it's so much cheaper to just go to a Korean restaurant. So yeah, for me, I usually don't go to any type of like Mexican restaurant or even like pasta. Like I try not to go to any pasta places either because the entree will literally be like $17. And I'm like, no, I'd rather go to the random like Korean restaurant down the street and only pay $7. Like, no thanks. Especially considering like, even if you go to these restaurants and you're willing to pay your like $17 or whatever, it tastes different. Right? They don't have access to like all the same ingredients or the same vegetables. So like it just tastes different. So if you're looking for like, you want it to taste like home or something, it probably won't. There's always something to do. Okay, if you live in Seoul or like Busan, yes, I think there's always something to do as long as you have like a wide range of like interests. For example, if you like going to art exhibitions or going to like K-pop events in terms of like fan cafe types of things, then like yes, there are always like things to do, and of course there's always like temples and historical places and museums and things like that. But if you have a very like niche interest, it might be a lot harder to say that there's always something to do. And then of course if like as you leave the bigger cities, there are fewer and fewer things to do. For example, Jeonju is really beautiful, but I don't really like need to go there again because there's not much else to do other than what I did. Like I think I could do one more trip to see like what I didn't see and then I'd be done. And like Daegu as well, I've been to Daegu twice now, and really there's nothing left for me to see there in terms of like touristy things or trip like things. But like if I were to go to Busan, like there's so many things I still want to see in Busan, and I've been there multiple times. So I think it really depends on like the size of the city and your interests. You're expected to dress up, look good, and be presentable in public. Yes. So I can't speak for other countries when comparing and contrasting. I can only speak for the United States, like the USA and Korea, because these are the only places I have ever lived. But compared to the US, yes, like Korean people care a lot about how they look, how other people see them, especially when it comes to first impressions. So I would say there is pressure to always look your best, to have done your makeup, to have done your hair, and just to look nice. Like, and it's not just like the girls, it's also the guys. Like the guys will look really, really nice. Like they will have nice clothes on and they will have like done their hair really nice. I'm like, how can you teach American men how to do their hair like that? Please, I beg you. Like it looks really good. And yeah, I mean, obviously there's going to be some people that don't care if other people expect them to dress up. Like there's always going to be outliers, but I would say the general consensus is yes. However, I would say since COVID, there's less pressure to dress up as nice. And I only say that because of like the masks. Like right now, as I'm filming this, we are still required to wear masks inside. So for like my friends or like my Korean friends that are office workers, they've told me like they don't put on makeup anymore because like why put on makeup when half your face is covered by a mask? They're like, we don't care. Before COVID, I had friends that would like, if they forgot to put on lip tint, they'd wear a mask because they forgot to put on lip tint. And like there were times like as an exchange student, some of the girls would be like, oh, I got up late, but like I need to do my makeup before leaving for class. And I remember my friend asked her roommate one time, like, you're late, like why would you take the time to put on your makeup? Like just go to class. And the friend was like, or the Korean girl was like, no, people have to look at me. I need to look nice. Which like, I don't know how much of that was like people are gonna look at her as opposed to like she just wanted to make sure she looked nice. I don't know. But like, I think it's less serious now compared to 6 years ago when I was an exchange student. Both Koreans and non-Koreans are under a lot of pressure by society. For Koreans, I want to say yes. I want to say there's a lot of pressure to perform well in school, to get into a good university, and then get a good job, and then have a girlfriend or a boyfriend or a significant other, and then to get married by a certain age. Like a lot of things that like, not just society, but like pressures that their families put on them, or like each other rather. Yeah, if you want to learn about that, you can go look up topics like that. I feel like I'm not the best person to talk about that. All I can say is I see it, and I'm gonna say that's a yes. Now when it comes to foreign people, I would say Korean people don't expect much from us in general. Like I think most Korean people, when they see foreigners, especially like young foreigners, they think like, oh, you're an exchange student or you're an English teacher, you're only going to be here for maximum a year, maybe a few years, and then you're going to go back to your home country. So they don't have like any expectations for us in terms of like, oh, this 외국인 is going to learn Korean, or oh, this 외국인 is like gonna get married to a Korean person and stay here, or like do anything like that. I feel like a lot of them see us as people who are just kind of here on vacation or on like a gap year type of situation. They're always asking like, are you an English teacher? And then they ask, when are you gonna go back home? Not in like a rude way. It's just that the way they see our situation is we are not home because our families are like in our home countries. So to them, they're like, why would you stay here when your family is abroad or like in a different country? So they don't mean it in like a rude way, but they're just like, that's one of like the first questions they ask is, how long will you be in Korea? Because they expect it's only like a year or something. People give you free stuff if you're a foreigner. No. Okay, when I was an exchange student back in 2016, I got free stuff quite a bit. And to be honest, I think the reason I got a lot of like free stuff back then compared to now, like now I don't think I've gotten anything for free. Unless like the employee messed something up and then they'll give me something for free. But like in general, I'm not getting anything for free because I'm a foreigner. And I think, this is a guess, I don't know for sure, but I think in 2016, one, I was not in Seoul, I was not in Gyeonggi-do, I was in Chungcheongnam-do, which is like, I was kind of in the middle of nowhere. And then for that area especially, I was one of the only foreigners that spoke any level of Korean. So there were like some emos at like a specific restaurant that I would eat at quite a lot, and they would give me free stuff because they would just liked me. Like they would come over and talk to me, they would like touch my hair and be like, oh my gosh, your hair, it's like a doll's hair, it's so curly, and things like that. And I remember like on the subway one time, this old lady was talking to me and she was like, have you ever had dok? Which at the time I didn't know that dok was like the same as like the dok in tteokbokki, and I said no, and then she just like pulled out dok from her purse and gave it to me. It was really cute and it was pretty good. You're not supposed to eat food given to you from strangers, but I did and I lived. But yeah, I would say back then I would get like random free things just because people were kind of happily surprised that I spoke some Korean. And now that I live in Seoul, I think it's not as surprising. Like obviously like Korean people will still respond with like, 한국어 잘하시네요. But I think most of the time they don't really mean it. I think they're just like, oh, okay. Especially because like over the last decade with like the rise of K-pop, there are more and more foreigners coming to Korea. So I feel like they're just not like as interested in us in a way where they want to give us free stuff, if that makes sense. I mean, that's my opinion. I'm sure there are foreigners somewhere like that literally got free stuff like yesterday, but I haven't not gotten anything free within the past year that I've lived here. It's lonely and hard to make friends because people don't go out of their way to talk to strangers. 50-50. And the reason I say this is because I think it really depends on how much effort you put into making friends here. And for this, I'm gonna assume you mean making like Korean friends. Because foreigners gravitate to each other so easily that you don't really need to try to make foreign friends, in my opinion. So yeah, I think with making Korean friends, as I literally have a whole video on this topic because you guys ask me this so often, which I will link that video right here. I tell you some of like ways I think you can go about making Korean friends. But how do I even go about explaining this? So in terms of like Korean people going up to strangers, they don't do that. If a Korean person comes up to you saying like they want to be your friend, guys, like that's a yellow orange flag. Like that's a no-no. They don't do that to each other. Honestly, they should not be doing that to you. My friends tell me if any Korean person ever comes up to you on the street, they're weird, ignore them. Like they want something from you, in like they most likely have some like bad or ill intentions. Like please don't mess around with those people. Like don't engage. Obviously not everyone is bad, but I want to say the majority of the time that I've had people approach me on the street, they've either wanted to like get me to like, I don't want to say go to their church, but talk to me about their religion, or talk to me about like converting to their religion. Like this has literally happened to me at KU, like on campus at KU, as well as like on campus when I was an exchange student. And then like when it's just out and about in Seoul, usually it's a guy that comes up to me being like, oh, I like foreigners, can I have your number? And I'm like, no, you cannot. Or they'll be like, oh, I want to make foreign friends. And it's always dudes. It's never like, when it comes to religious groups, usually it's women that approach me, but when it comes to like, I want to make foreign friends, it's like a man or men that are coming up to me on the street. And yeah, just no. Like I said, they're not all bad. Like sometimes people will actually just come up to you and ask for your number because they think you're pretty or handsome or whatever. But in general, I go, no. So in terms of making friends, I feel like you need to go through an organization. So if you're a student, join like some of the clubs here, do some volunteer work here. If you're religious, like go to your religious institution here, like a credible one, please. And like make friends there. Like any situation in which you will see people like repeatedly, and where they can get to know you, you can make friends. Especially once you have like a few Korean friends, they will start introducing you to their Korean friends, assuming you speak Korean or their friends speak English. Guys have a type when it comes to Americans. And then you gave me some like context to this assumption saying that like you're blonde and have blue eyes, and some Korean man or guy told you that you would be really popular with the men in Korea. Yes. Honestly, I don't know how to respond to this question, or not question, rather assumption, because I honestly want to lean more towards no, but part of me also wants to lean towards yes. Like okay, some of the men here, like that, like the men that fetishize like foreign women, some of them, they're like, I want to date a blonde girl. I want to date a blonde girl. Yes. And then there are other men that are like, I want to date black girls. I only want to date black girls. And then there are other men that are like really into Japanese girls. So I don't want to say that there like is a specific type for nationality. They're all over the place when they fetishize women, foreign women. I do want to mention though, there are Korean women that fetishize like foreign men, but I think they're a lot less obvious about it. And obviously there are people that come to Korea fetishizing Korean people. Like it's a freaking circle. Yes, but okay, let's move on. Eating fresh fruit equals being broke. Okay. You can find fruit here that is affordable, that is like a good price, that is delicious. But it's like, it's not like the United States where you can buy like a ton of like fresh fruit at once and it's super affordable. Here, I feel like you kind of just have to buy whatever's in season or whatever you happen to see is at a good price. And to be honest, in my experience, you need to eat it rather quickly. In the US, like maybe we use like a ton of preservatives or something, but like my fruit lasts a pretty like good amount of time, like a week, week and a half. But here in Korea, like I will buy bananas and within like 4 days, they're bad. And I don't mean like, oh, Natalia, you bought them when they were bad. I mean, no, like they were good bananas, not even ripe yet. And then within 4 or 5 days, they're brown. So yes, I think if you're wanting to buy fruit here, you kind of just have to be like, oh, today apples are on sale, or like next week it's strawberries and things like that. Like you're not going to be buying a ton of fruit at once, especially if you're on a student budget. Like I don't think you're going to be able to afford eating a lot of fruit because it's really expensive. Even though you don't have to wear a mask outside, people still do it. Okay. So when I asked you guys for these assumptions, the Korean government had just changed like this regulation about wearing masks outside. They said like, okay, you don't have to wear them outside. Like, you only have to wear them inside or in very specific like places or events. So at first we were all very hesitant to not wear our masks. It was very like everyone was looking at everybody else. Like 사람들이 다 눈치를 보고 있었어. Like it was like, okay, like are the people that I'm around in this area, are they wearing their masks? If they are, like I'm gonna wear my mask. Like it was still very uncomfortable to not wear our masks, if that makes sense. Like at the time it was still kind of cold. Like it was, I want to say late May, early June when they changed the mandate, and it was one of those times where like it's kind of warm during the day and then it's cold at night. So it wasn't like we were necessarily sweating inside our masks or anything like that. So it's just kind of more comfortable to keep it on. Also, I feel like as an introvert, personally, like I like wearing a mask because I'm like, I feel like it gives me a sense of like a boundary, some kind of like thing in between me and you. I know that might just be like an introvert thought or a Natalia thought, but it makes me feel like I'm standing kind of behind a podium and you can't like see me. That sounds really silly. But now that it's mid-July that I'm filming this, like no, like there are definitely people that still wear it outside, but I would say a good number of people don't wear it anymore, especially because it's really hot and humid. It's god awfully humid now. People don't wear it and we're just used to people not wearing them now. Also, I think you need to also understand that like in Korea, we walk so much. And what I mean by that is sometimes like you're coming out of the subway station where you like have to wear a mask, obviously. And then the store or the coffee shop you're going to is literally half a block away, to the point where it's not worth taking off your mask and then putting it back on. Like it's almost more inconvenient. There's a lot of instances like that, especially like when you're like in Hongdae, for example, and you're like going into boutique after boutique after boutique. Like even though all the doors are open on like the street that you're on, it's inconvenient to take it off and then put it on and then take it off and then put it on as you like wander through the stores. Please be understanding of that when you're seeing people wearing masks and stuff. Like there's reasons. Also, like I said earlier, like there are people that just aren't wearing makeup anymore because they're like, I can just wear my mask and nobody knows. So that's probably another reason there are people not taking off masks, is because they're like, I didn't put on any makeup because I haven't been putting on makeup for the past 2 years. Eating out is cheaper than buying groceries. It depends. It really, really depends. When it comes to buying groceries, you can get like pasta and pasta sauce for like $10 and like together for $10, and then have like 3, 4, 5 meals out of it, depending on like the size of your portions and things like that. So in that regard, no, like eating groceries or buying groceries is a lot cheaper than eating out, because I want to say on average for a meal, like a Korean style, like Korean food meal, you're gonna pay between like $6 to like $14, $15, $16-ish, like depending on if you're doing like a soup or like you're gonna go big and like do Korean barbecue or something. Obviously like the really nicer restaurants are more expensive, but for the people that are asking me, you're probably more like closer to a student budget or like a teacher budget, where you're not gonna be like eating at fancy restaurants all the time. So if you're willing to eat the same food over and over again or multiple times a week, like you can save money on buying groceries. Also, there are some restaurants here, if you get kimbap and you're okay with kimbap being a meal, because I mean they can be really like thick rolls of kimbap. Those are like $3, $4, which there are times where I eat that as a meal because it's so much food, like it's enough. So $3 compared to like buying meat at like the grocery store and then making it at home. Everything is clean and orderly. No. Okay, when it comes to things being clean, like I know on screen Korea can look like so clean, like so beautiful, and like Korea is really beautiful, and there are areas of like, let's say Seoul, that are amazingly clean, but there are also areas that are like not so great, like not so clean. No. I've mentioned this over the past few years in like different videos. Like when it comes to trash, like there's not a lot of public trash cans just around. Like there are some places where they will have like actual trash cans, like in the like Hangang Park, there are trash cans there. Not a lot, but there are some. But like when it comes to just like walking down the street, there aren't that many. And you'll start to notice that like people pile trash up at like a light pole or at a tree or just like in the middle of the sidewalk. because that's just where like the waste management company for that area comes to pick up the trash. For example, like there are stores where they will literally, you can see the employees, they have the bags of trash, they walk outside, they put it by a tree, and then they walk back into the store. Okay, you can see like sometimes there'll be like a sign on the tree or on the pole that says like this is a pickup area for trash or whatever. But more commonly, I would say you don't see it, you just see a pile of trash. So that goes with no, not everything is clean. And when it comes to everything is orderly, also no. Like with several institutions here in Korea, like the language school, I had issues like with miscommunications about like documents that I needed to submit in order to enroll at the language center. I had issues with the bank not telling me stuff. Like even after I asked them very specific questions, they gave me either incorrect information or incomplete information. I've had issues with immigration in terms of like they're not very clear on all the documentation that I need for certain visas or like switching visas or visa extensions. Like it's really hard to find visa information on the immigration website for who, like why? I don't know. I would say there are lots of times where Korea is really inefficient. But then there are also times where Korea is like amazing, like overnight delivery for things, like food delivery is amazing. Obviously the transportation system, the best ever, amazing. So there are like times or like in very specific situations, Korea is like amazing and very orderly. They have a system and it's efficient, it's great, it's amazing. Like other countries, look at Korea. And then there are other situations where I'm like, why is this an issue? This is not an issue in the United States. This is very efficient in the United States. What is happening? Korea, what the heck? English or not, I'm learning Korean, but do people our age speak English too? No, like yes and no. So there are obviously like people that are really, really good at English. Like as you've seen in my vlogs, a lot of my Korean friends speak really good English. And then I think in my like summer moments in Seoul or summer moments in Korea video, I don't know what I titled it. In that video, there's a portion with my friends from my like church. They don't speak English. They're a little bit older than me, but not by much, like 3-4 years older, and they don't speak English. So like it really, really depends on the person. I want to say it depends on like their personal motivation to learn English. Like if they're wanting to learn English or if they were like pressured to learn English by their parents or something, then they probably speak English, or at least they can like read and write in English and understand English. Like you said, like definitely like learn Korean because it helps a lot, especially in just everyday life. Like I would not go somewhere assuming people are gonna speak English because a lot of people don't, especially older people. Or even if they learned English in school, I've met a lot of Korean people that tell me like, oh yeah, I studied it, but I forgot it all. Or like I only remember a little bit and things like that. So within like the people around our age, so I'm just gonna say like people in their 20s, there's a very select group that actually speaks English. And what I mean by actually speaks English, I mean they're confident in their English. They are like very comfortable engaging with foreigners in English. Like they're like, yeah, English, it's whatever. And then there's the majority of people in their 20s that are like, I studied English, and like maybe they can read and write English, but like they don't speak English. Like, oh my gosh, just in the past few months, the number of Korean students here that have told me like, oh yeah, Koreans are really bad at English is like, a lot of them have said that to me. They're like, yeah, no, we're not good at English. Like, no. Those are my thoughts. That's their thoughts. Let me say that right now. They said that, not me. Oh my goodness. Okay, so we did it. We answered your assumptions, and surprisingly, that was pretty like well filmed, I think, for me. I say that because I didn't have to repeat myself multiple times, which is always good and happy. We love that. Editing Natalia loves that. Anyway, I will see you guys in the next video. I hope you enjoyed this one. And yeah, okay. 다음에 봐요, guys. Bye!